Hey guys, it's Kesara, and today I'm going to be doing my 2020 update to my underrated fantasy book recommendations. I've done about 2 of these videos in the past, so I'll link them down below because I'm not going to be repeating any books that I said in those videos. For this video, I'm going to start out with middle grade. I have 1 middle grade book, 1 YA, and then I have a few adult fantasy books that I'm recommending to you guys today that I think are just so sweet and deserve more love. So starting with the middle grade, the first book that I want to recommend to you guys today is A Dash of Trouble by Anna Mariano. So this is the first book in the Love, Sugar, Magic series, which is a Latina-inspired middle grade fantasy series. It's about a character named Leonora who finds out that her family is actually a family of brujas, or witches, and that she is just too young to learn the family secret yet, but they bake magic into like pastries and things like that. It's such a sweet little story that I absolutely love. And of course, when Leonora finds out, she of course has to try out this magic even though she's not ready for it yet, and mischief ensues. I absolutely love this. It was recommended to me by Shannon from That's So Po. Such a great recommendation, and I'm really excited to read the next 2 books in this series as well. It's so sweet and fun, and I absolutely love the main character and all of the trouble that she gets into. So the YA recommendation that I have for you guys is The Arithmetist by Brandon Sanderson, and I do realize Brandon Sanderson is not an underrated author. In no way sense could he be considered underrated, but I feel like this book in particular is underrated because tons of people who like Brandon Sanderson and have read his works probably haven't even heard of The Arithmetist or haven't read The Arithmetist. And I have, and I actually really liked it. This book was so much fun. It has such an interesting magic system because it's kind of like chalk drawings, but they have chalk battles, and the chalk comes to life and attacks people. But you have to draw the attacking soldiers, and then you have to draw the barriers and stuff and defend yourself. And there's all out chalk battles, which are just really great. Out of all of Brandon Sanderson's books for younger readers, this is probably my favorite of the bunch, just because it's so much fun on the magical side while at the same time still having great characters, and of course your typical Brandon Sanderson kind of plot twists and reveals and stuff like that. I absolutely love this and would definitely recommend this as well. It's such a fun, light fantasy novel that I absolutely love. I will say one thing, ending definitely makes it feel like there's a sequel, and there hasn't been a sequel yet. I don't know if there will be, but there definitely is a feeling there that there's more to this story, and we haven't found it yet. But I would still recommend it either way. Now we're gonna move on to my recommendations for adult readers. The first one that I want to recommend is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. So I've talked about this one quite a bit on my channel recently. I read it, I want to say in July or August, and this is a fairly new release. It's an Asian-inspired fantasy that's following several different protagonists, and I think what I really love about this one is the magic, because the magic system is really cool. So this society is ruled by an emperor, and the emperor takes the bone shards of his citizens to power constructs. And as long as the citizen is alive, then the construct is powered by that citizen's energy of some sort. So in ancient history, when they were at war a lot, those constructs would go to war and they would probably die out very quickly. They're now in a peaceful society, but the emperor is still making constructs as servants and things like that. And it's not the most moral way to go about running your empire, but his daughter really wants to be named heir, so she has kind of this competition with her father's ward. On the meantime, we have some characters on kind of the opposite side, people who are against the empire, as well as a governor's daughter who's kind of stuck in the middle. I absolutely love the different perspectives that we have here, and the storylines, how they interweave with each other, was really well done. It is such a great fantasy debut novel, and I cannot wait to see more from this author. So the next recommendation I have for you is actually one that I read last year, but I forgot to put on my recommendations from last year, and that's The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. This is the first novel in a new fantasy series set in an archipelago society in which the people make ships out of the bones of ancient dragons. I absolutely love the concept of this novel. It's so cool. There's quite a bit of pirating that goes on in this as well, and even though most of the dragons have died out, there's kind of hints and clues that there might still be one alive. So of course we have our crew that is going to try and find this ancient dragon. I think the thing that works the most for me in this book is the world building, because there's just such deep world building here, from the words and what the names of things are called to just the lore of the world and things like that, and how history is woven into the story. I absolutely love that aspect of it, and of course it does have some good action and pirating and some great characters as well. I really enjoyed it, and I actually just got the second book in the series, The Call of the Bone Ships, that I'm really excited to get to too. So definitely a fantastic maritime fantasy. If you're into maritime fantasy, you definitely have to read this one. I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to read more by this author as well. So I don't know if I would necessarily call this one underrated, just because in the wider world of fantasy, I feel like a lot of people have read it, but I've literally never heard anyone on BookTube talk about it. So I figured I'd stick it into this video just because it is a fantastic novel, and I think more people on BookTube should read it, and that's Heroes Die by Matthew Woodring Stover. So this is kind of like a fantasy sci-fi like cross genre, because it's set in sort of a futuristic world in almost a Ready Player One sort of way. They can experience another person's experience. So our main character, Harry Michelson, is an actor in which he goes to this other world and acts as the character of Kane, and he has like this setup that records all of his experiences so that the people back home can experience it. Well, Kane is not a hero. He's very much an anti-hero. He's not a good person. So Harry Michelson kind of has to act both as himself and as this character, because the world that he's going to is real, and it's kind of like a more medieval high fantasy type of world. So we have the more like futuristic, like sci-fi world building in it, but then we also have like the more medieval like fantasy world building in it. So it's like the best of both worlds, and the main character, Harry Michelson, is fantastic. He's definitely like a morally gray character. I absolutely love that aspect of him. And at the very beginning of the novel, he finds out that his wife, who plays the character of Pallas Rill, is not only cheating on him, but she's captured, so he has to go to the other world as Kane to free her. So it's kind of twisted in an emotional sense, because like he has to go to free her because, I mean, she's his wife and he loves her, but at the same time he's not fully happy with her right now. And then there's a lot of politics, both modern, more capitalistic politics on the sci-fi side, and then also more medieval, like high fantasy politics. And it's woven together so perfectly, and I absolutely loved it so much. There are 2 other books in this series. They're like standalone, set in the same world, so there's a pretty big time skip between books 1 and 2. So I'm planning to read book 2 sometime next year, and I'm really excited for it. So before we end all of this, I have one honorable mention for you guys. And it's an honorable mention because on BookTube, this book is not underrated. Like, people talk about this book all the time, but I feel like in the wider world of fantasy, not as many people have read it as some of like the other books that I've read, just because it's written by an indie author, but it's still absolutely fantastic, and I have to give it an honorable mention, and that's The Sword of Kaigen. This book is absolutely fantastic, guys. It's following several characters in the Matsuda family who are a part of this ancient warrior culture that think of themselves as like the protectors of the empire, or rather the Sword of Kaigen. And the main character, Mamoru, is the oldest son in that family, so he's going to be the heir. So he's trying really hard to prove himself. And one of the things his family is known for is the Whispering Blade. It's a conjured blade made of ice that is so thin it could cut basically anything. So his entire purpose in life is to create this Whispering Blade. But we're also following the character of Misaki, who is his mother, and she kind of is not fully happy in her relationship, but at the same time she kind of is, because she's very traditional in other senses of the word as well. But she is such a great mother figure that's flawed in many ways, and their relationship is really interesting. But there's just so much that goes into this novel, because this novel makes you love the characters so much, and then when things happen, it is just absolutely devastating. Seriously, get your tissues out for this one, because I don't cry in books, but this one had me bawling. I absolutely love this so much. Honestly, if it wasn't for the last chapter, I can consider this book almost perfect, because it was just so well done. I absolutely loved it so much. Not only is it very character driven, there is actually a very large battle in this, and there's quite a bit of action in that battle, and the way the magic is written is so well done as well. I love the way the magic is written in here, and it's just a fantastic book that needs more love. Like, really, please, if you haven't read this already, you need to read it like right now. If you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments. I'd love to discuss with you guys. I post videos on Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so consider subscribing. If you'd like to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you'd like to see me, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.